Hello, my loves. Continue to update new stories on Reddit, and don't forget if you like it, please subscribe and like it. Now let's start new stories. Story: AITA for saying being a stay-at-home wife is a job. I'm 25-year-old, was talking to my boyfriend, 26-year-old, about how I've been feeling drained lately because I feel like I do everything around the house. I work a full-time job Monday through Friday 9 to 5 and often work overtime. I also have a very small business on the side which brings in some extra money every now and then. I live with my boyfriend and he works a full-time job overnight, also with overtime. He expects me to cook, clean, grocery shop, and do everything in between on top of working full-time. When I explained that it's draining, he says he gets it and he helps out sometimes. Most of the time though, it's still all up to me to figure out how I feel and get everything done. Lately I've gotten past the point of being drained and moved into full-blown exhaustion. I agreed that I could take full-time care of the house and other tasks if I didn't need to work, but because I do, I expect more help around the house and he feels like it's not his job as the man. I can admit that I have let the condition of the house spiral a bit because of my exhaustion and feeling unsupported. He feels like as a woman, I should want to take care of everything. He thinks exhaustion is understandable for like a week but not long-term. He thinks because my job is hybrid, that I have time when I'm working from home to do odd tasks around the house, and he won't admit to downplaying my job and saying it's easy just because it can be done at home. I feel like he doesn't want to understand how I feel because he wants to be right. I feel like as partners he should want to help more. I pay bills just like he does. I go out and work full-time just like he does. He should be able to cook and clean and grocery shop like me. He suggested me just cleaning up after myself to make it fair, but he doesn't realize how much of a mess he makes on his own. I'm uncertain of what else to say. In our last discussion, he advised me to speak with a married woman to understand if being a stay-at-home wife can be considered employment, as he could not explain it as a man. Married women, what are your thoughts? Am I wrong in believing that being a stay-at-home wife is a job? Am I the asshole? Is it fair for me to work full-time and handle the majority, if not all, of the chores with little to no assistance? Story: Wibta if I break up with a guy who I just see as a friend. So here's what's going on. I, 27-year-old, knew this guy, 27-year-old, from a summer job I worked at while in college. For the story we will call him Brad. That was 9 to 10 years ago. We fell out of touch because he left that job to do classes during the next summer or another job, TBH I don't remember. Last August he got in touch with me again and we started talking. We met for the first time in years this past November and have fun hanging out. This past Easter he asked me to be his girlfriend and I hesitantly said yes. Recently, I have been feeling like we are just friends and have been trying to not really talk to him much anymore. We used to talk almost every day, but now I'm starting to get the feeling like he feels the same way. Another reason why I have been trying to distance myself from the relationship is because he wants to do everything in a certain area of my city that is 10 minutes away from my house. I have been getting tired of us always going to that area just to see movies, go to dinner, or bowl/arcade. I want to go to a different area of our town, but I would have to do all the driving. Brad is not comfortable driving on the highway, and I have had to drive multiple times to the location we are going to. Brad has a birth defect, which could be the reason why he is not comfortable on highways. I'm also not going to tell you what that birth defect is in case someone he knows sees this. Brad is not attractive at all. I know I sound like a stuck-up person, but I'm not. I have had multiple people telling me that attraction is like 50% of the relationship. Brad is not much of a sports fan. I am a major sports fan. I grew up in a house where if football, baseball, or basketball were on TV you had to watch it. Also, I played basketball in middle school. My brother played baseball since he was little. He doesn't like hiking or biking. My brother and I love hiking. My dad and I love biking too, so that does not give us a whole lot to do. Every time he asks if I want to go see a movie or go to the bowling alley, arcade, or go to dinner I groan and don't really want to answer him at the moment of the text. Brad has met my parents and they like him. I have met his family and they are really nice. His niece loves me. I have talked to my parents about this and my mom thinks I'm in a hole for acting the way I have been acting with him. She doesn't get that I am absolutely miserable in this relationship. Every time we go out and she asks how it was, I will always reply it was fine. She grills me about it and asks why I am like this with him, and I tell her I'm not. She basically accuses me of being mean to him, which I'm never mean to him. My dad tries to be the mediator, but my mom keeps pushing me towards him. At one point we had another argument about him, and it got so bad that my parents kept saying you're drunk and we'll talk about this tomorrow. I had only one drink, adult drink, so I was not drunk. At that point I screamed at them, I'm ing miserable and he makes me miserable. I don't like him at all. I want to stop seeing him and start seeing other people. I left their house and went back to my apartment, 2-minute drive from their house, and cried my eyes out for the rest of the night. Brad is a nice guy, but I just don't see this relationship going anywhere. A friend of mine asked me if he said he loved you, would you say it back? I told her I would, but I would not actually mean it. I would just say it back because he said it. I don't want to lead him on, and if he decides at one point to get down on one knee, doubt he will ever, I don't want to hurt him by saying something like I don't see myself marrying you, or I felt this way for a while but couldn't break up with you because it was seriously hurt you. Story, AITA for not agreeing the first time. In my sophomore year, I met a boy. He was cute, smart, and everything that draws me to someone. Our relationship began with casual glances, then hi, and finally, conversations. Once we started hugging, I found myself looking forward to those moments more than anything else. We hugged over 10 times a day, and I loved how I fit into his embrace and how my heart would race as though it was in sync with his. He knew exactly what to say to make me laugh, and with him, nothing was ever boring. I confided in him my little secrets and goals. My teacher even told me she was sure he was in love with me, as I was with him. It was hard to believe, but the feeling of his heart beating against mine couldn't have been a mistake. Then summer came. We parted ways as two kids who could possibly be in love. I had fears he didn't like me, but I wasn't sure. We had the same summer classes, which were more like a camp. I searched for him among everyone, and when I found him, I was really nervous and scared but excited nevertheless. We started talking less, and I got jealous of another girl he was closer friends with. Fewer hugs equaled the growing feeling that perhaps I wasn't meant for love. My friend, classmate, told her other friend about my crush, which ended up being that friend, let's call him Jasper, telling the guy I liked, let's call him Liam, about my feelings. I ran out of class and cried in the bathroom. I avoided him the rest of the day, and when he finally caught up with me, he wanted to talk. We did, and he hugged me, telling me it was okay. He promised we would talk more, but that day never came. We had our casual talks, but Liam said nothing about my feelings, mostly because I never got around to talking about them. During that time, Liam and I rode the bus together, but no words were exchanged, which made me feel lonely. However, he talked all the time with this other friend, whom I had nothing against, but I was really jealous of the fact that he could get close to her while I couldn't. On the last day of summer, I got to know the other girl really well, and she was a lesbian, which meant they weren't together. I hugged Liam, which was great. One thing to clarify, I take hugs very seriously, I don't just hug anyone. So, this was clearly me stating I was interested in moving forward. School started up again, and I still hadn't gotten a reply, 3 months in and nothing. I had given up, taking his silence as a rejection and feeling too hurt to ask him, plus humiliated. We casually started talking again in my Spanish class, but not much. We waved in the hallway now and then. When he finally asked me out, I stupidly said no because I was too afraid. I live in a religious family, which is also strict and doesn't allow dating until school is done. In context, I am not planning on giving up school until I finish my university degree. He said, I wanted to take you up on your offer. I felt hurt because I didn't offer to date him, I just wanted him to ask if I was interested. I wrote him a letter the very next day, explaining things, but then we were over. He stopped staying after lessons to talk to me, and the hellos were somewhat forced. It was like re-listening to those sad songs in the summer again, and that was a love era for me. It was like flying in the sky, and letting myself do so even without knowing what was underneath because I knew for sure I was not going to die. It took him less than 2 months to find someone else, but I was happy. It meant he got the happy ending he deserved. I watched from the sidelines as they cuddled together, and I thought, what a happy couple they make. The girl Liam is dating is the best, and I talked to her. She is a sweet and caring girl. Every time I think of my love life, his image pops up, and I feel guilty. It's when it's too late that you realize you have lost a good one, but at least he found his person. I finished watching A Happy Love Story and thought of him. Every guy I tried to fall in love with, I compared to him, but I think it's time I stop. Liam was a great guy, but not for me. He was meant to fall in love with someone deserving of him, and now it's time I stop chasing after lost dreams. He deserved that from me, at least. Story, AITA for being with someone I wasn't sure about. We both are international students and we met when I moved in the other room of the place he was living in. We have so many interests in common and he is a golden soul. I love spending time with him and so does he. I genuinely care about him and I tried to vocalize whatever is going on in my head multiple times and even tried going no contact. Impossible because we live under the same roof. I am going to absolutely honest here and say that currently I am not ready to be committed and have a relationship or even date. Whenever I tried doing the above for his sake it backfired by me getting overwhelmed and burnt out. I have been unfaithful and so has he. Before I started dating him I gave him a full disclaimer that I am not ready for a relationship or even dating, but I think he didn't pay heed to that. Every time I would break up I would go to this other FWB for a hookup and it would hurt my housemate a lot. Once we were dating and I made out with a guy in my university, but guilt overwhelmed the living shit out of me, so I came home and was honest about the whole making out ordeal and all the problems I had in my mind with our situation. Now his unfaithfulness, he went for a vacation for a month and right before leaving he confessed that he loves me. I was a bit mad at this as the time and place he confessed fueled the living shit of my separation anxiety and peace in general. I was mad at him for 3 or 4 days and then things kinda settled. We would talk regularly on call and nothing seemed off. He told me about 2 weeks of coming back from his vacation that he had hooked up multiple times when he was away. Even though I had also cheated, I told him not to expect absolute loyalty as currently I am not that person, even though I want to be a loyal person forward in my life, but I also told him that he will get unparalleled honesty from my side irrespective of whatever happens. Now the thing which bugs me is that he hit it with such precision and acted like everything was normal. We both have taken care of each other when the other wasn't in a good space. Every time I talk about him cheating he brings up my past hookups, logically fair enough, and that shuts me up in the moment, but still my mind isn't at peace with it. He then told me why he cheated. His actual words were, "It got me free dental treatment." I was just shook. After processing this statement of his, I asked him, "So you basically somewhat prostituted yourself after you told me you love me?" He took offense at the prostitution statement and totally flipped it on me. I apologized and didn't talk about it again. Him being so caring and loving all the time and still ending up doing this really caught me off guard and hurt me real bad. He gets really messed up whenever I form healthy distance for my sake, as he has formed a sense of being codependent on me emotionally and physically. He comes home and I sometimes make him something to eat and I like taking care of him at times, but when I need to clear my head and have some space and time for myself, he absolutely loses it, keeps taking the blame on himself, and I have to go back to that nurturing role to regulate him. I really want to get out of this situation, but I cannot move out as I have landed a job very close to where I live. Story, AITA for being upset with my boyfriend's mom. I'm 19 years old and have been dating my boyfriend for over a year. When we started dating, I was living with my older sister and commuting over 45 minutes for work. My boyfriend's family offered for me to move in with them until I got more money and could get on my feet. They kept reassuring me that I didn't need to feel rushed in moving out, that they enjoyed having me there. I moved in mid-October, and it's now July. After Christmas, everything with his mom changed. She started getting more controlling with how much me and him were going out. We had to sleep in separate beds, etc., which at the time was fine. I tried very hard to maintain rules and expectations. Around March, his little sister caught me vaping. I didn't tell his family that I was vaping because I knew that he had family that had issues with lung cancer. I honestly thought that she didn't see it because she never said anything about it until months later. She didn't tell her mother about it until the end of May. When she told her mom about it, it was during his brother's birthday. Then her birthday was a week later. Then his stepdad went into the hospital. It never seemed like a good time to bring it up and apologize. I waited until what I thought was a better time. His mom started an argument with him a few weeks ago and accused me of awful things. I decided it was probably a good time to just apologize for everything. I sent her a message saying, "I really hate to do this over text, but I feel like I need to go ahead and address everything. Firstly, I want to apologize. I know that Zoe told you what happened with the vaping, and I want to clarify that I never intended to put you or her in that position. When everything happened, I was in the middle of a panic attack. I made a spur-of-the-moment stupid decision to grab it to try and calm down, and Zoe walked in at the wrong time. I felt awful and had hoped she didn't see it because she never said anything about it at the time. I understand though now that she did, and truly I am really sorry. I haven't avoided discussing this with you out of negligence. With recent birthdays and Stavo being in the hospital, it just never felt like the right time to bring it up. I also felt like it was something important that needed to be explained properly, and I have struggled to find the right words to say that show how sorry I really am. I also want to clarify that I really don't drink. The fake ID I own is for attending concerts and other venues when we travel. I'm not saying I never have, but it's not something I actively seek out because I truly don't like the way alcohol makes me feel, nor do I enjoy being around people heavily intoxicated. Isaac has always been a positive influence on me, encouraging me to pursue good things. I know I might not be what you envisioned for him, but I do love him, and I am committed to loving him in the way he deserves and to becoming a better person every day. I truly appreciate everything you have done for me, and I am grateful for the opportunities you have given me to be part of your lives, as I'm sure at times it's difficult having me around. I deeply value our relationship and wish for it to grow into a genuine friendship. However, I can't help but feel that you really don't like me, which sucks because I am really striving to gain your approval. I have a lot of love and respect for you, even though at times I am incredibly poor at showing it. It's been very hard for me to find my place in the house because I've been so used to being the mom figure instead of having the mom figure myself, so trying to find that happy balance of doing things to help but not taking over has not been easy. If there are any specific expectations or standards you have for me, I would be more than willing to listen and strive to meet them. And on that same note, if I am ever doing something wrong or there's things you'd like me to change that you haven't told me about, please don't hesitate to talk to me about them. Again, I'm really sorry for everything, and I have been actively working to correct my mistakes. If you're okay with it, I'd really like to work on earning your forgiveness and building a better relationship with you. I didn't hear anything from her for almost a week aside from nasty glares across the kitchen. Then today I received a message from her saying, "It has taken me a few days to process your text and put my thoughts into words. My frustrations have it stemmed from whether or not I like you. I do not choose my children's love interests. I love and support my children, full stop. In our home we have boundaries and expectations. We believe that relationships are built on trust and mutual respect and consideration. I lost my sister to lung cancer, and vaping leaves behind nasty toxins. No one smokes or vapes in my home, and certainly not in my daughter's room. I believe that not apologizing for months was more about a lack of remorse than timing." Story: AITA for taking my mental struggles out on my boyfriend. I am 20 years old, have been with 20 years old my boyfriend for roughly 6 months. Our relationship has been great for the most part. He is an amazing partner to me. We've had our fair share of arguments and disagreements, but we tend to resolve them one way or another. I also struggle with some mental health issues, which can sometimes take a toll on our relationship. My boyfriend reassures me that I can come to him with my struggles, but I tend to find that he struggles to grasp the intensity of my emotions and how real my emotions feel for me. I have not seen a professional about these issues, and they have persisted throughout my childhood and into adulthood, so I've been handling them all on my own. I was grateful to find a support group that helped me get through these struggles, but I lost that shortly after my boyfriend entered my life due to unrelated drama. As a result, I find myself confiding in him a lot for emotional support. I don't have a great relationship with my family, so he's kind of the only person I have right now. Anyways, since we started dating, we have been calling or talking to each other every day or every other day. We make time for it by calling in our free time or staying up a little later at night. We usually hang out once a week, as our busy schedules don't allow us to meet more than that. However, over the past week, I had made multiple attempts every day to see if he is free to call, but he was always busy, typically playing Call of Duty with his friends. A few different nights, I tried to force myself to sleep early because he was busy staying up with his friends. I didn't want to be needy and deprive him of his time with his friends, but it really started taking a toll on me mentally when I was making constant efforts to reach out, and he was busy. He would say things like, "I'm so sorry, I feel bad," to which I reassured him that everything was okay. This is where I think I am to blame. I should have just told him that I would really like it if he could take time out of his day at some point to talk to me, since I feel quite alone. One night, we did end up calling after multiple days of only talking somewhat over text, and I was not in a good state mentally. I felt very alone because I had no friends to turn to, and I expressed this to him. I opened up about some of my recent struggles and feelings unrelated to him, and his only solution so far has been to get stronger mentally. That statement has been said to me a lot by him in an attempt to help me, but it often feels invalidating to how overwhelming my struggles can be. I could tell that seeing me like this upset him, so he told me he needed time alone, and that's how our call ended. I started sobbing after the phone call because I felt like I was pushing him away from myself. The one time I was able to call him, he wanted to be left alone. Now, I'm confused about whether I messed up by placing certain expectations on him, that he will be able to support me through my struggles and would communicate with me on a daily basis. I'm having a hard time navigating this, as I know that my perspective is strongly driven by my emotions, and I don't want to burden my boyfriend in a way that inhibits him from living his life. Story: AITA for questioning my boyfriend and my relationship. My boyfriend, 28 years old, and I am 28 years old, have been together for 4 years. We've had our ups and downs, and there is way more than I could get into about some highly upsetting and unhealthy things that have happened. I've chosen to get over them, but I'm starting to question myself and the relationship over something that happened last night. I have a reminder on my phone that goes off silently every hour, 1-minute dance party, and I use it during the day when I'm working to remind me to get up and stand. I've had this for about 2.5 years. My boyfriend defensively asked me a month ago who was texting me in the middle of the night. I got confused and asked him what he meant, and he said he heard my phone vibrate. I explained to him that I have my reminder, which we've talked about in the past, and also that we have a security camera that gives me notifications. I showed him my phone and he said he understood. I didn't like the tone and the lack of confidence he showed towards me, but I decided it was fair enough for him to ask. We've also talked openly that we don't care whether the other looks at their phone, never happens, but we know that it's fine. I truly don't care because I have nothing to hide. I woke up in the middle of the night last night to him demanding to know who I was texting. I was so confused and saw that I was leaning over my phone on the side table. I think I was turning my phone over in my sleep because my notification went off for our security camera and the phone was lighting up the room. I'm not sure because it all feels like a dream, but he was angry and demanded to know who I was texting. I stated I didn't know because in that moment I wasn't sure what was going on. He demanded my phone and I handed it over, and he scrolled for a while, then gave it back. I put it on my charger and fell immediately back to sleep. It all felt like a dream, and I thought it was until I woke up this morning and really thought about it. I've explained to him why my phone will sometimes light up in the night, doesn't vibrate for security camera, light one time, vibrate for reminder. He knows. I should turn it over before I fall asleep, but that's my own forgetfulness. I feel like his lack of trust in me is complete unfair, as I have never given him a reason to doubt me, ever. I don't have any male friends, as I haven't spoken to any of them since college. I work from home, so I have no coworkers I'm interacting with during the week. I hardly ever leave the house. He uses my car and is gone a lot, and I am always here. We have security cameras which he has access to, so he literally could see if I left and when, but that never happens because I'm home 95% of the time, and if I'm out of the house I'm usually with him. So I feel like it's unfair and insulting for him to even have a sliver of doubt towards me. I have very truthfully spoken to him how I feel about cheating. It's a non-option and I would never. I've also told him that cheating is completely unacceptable to me, and if he ever did, then it would be over. There would be no discussion. I thought he actually heard me when we had these discussions. He, however, has shown me multiple times that he does not respect my boundaries. He messaged one of my old friends we saw at a party and lied about it. She messaged me and told me, and her husband also blew up at my BF for messaging her. He apologized profusely and told me he meant nothing by it. He has gone out with a work client who is a beautiful woman our age and got wasted with her and drove home drunk. And left me in Reed, so I was worried sick. He went out with her a good bit and I let him know how much it upset me, but he did it anyway. He went out of his way to meet an 18-year-old client at a coffee shop and was 2 hours late to getting home when I was having health issues and needed him. He didn't tell me what he had been doing until a week later. Girls constantly flirt with him in my face, and it's rude. We've had more girls than I can count who've asked him if they could join us in bed, and I've made it very clear I don't want a threesome. It bothers me that they feel so okay with asking him even though he says no. He blew up at me at a bar once when I told him he looks just like his mom and that he has good genes. He then took that as me wanting his dad and began yelling at me that I wanted his dad and he couldn't believe I was that type. I am still deeply insulted and disgusted that he even thought that. I haven't seen his family since, and that was a year and a half ago. I don't want to see them. He once yelled at me and told me I was unfaithful because I spoke to his uncle at a family gathering about his aunt who is a photographer. I'm also a photographer. She wasn't at the gathering, but the uncle was telling me that his wife would love to meet me and talk about photography if I wanted advice. She is more experienced than I am. I've seen him message old friends and exes on social media and Snapchat. He's gotten angry when I mentioned a football player I thought was cute when I was in middle school. He gets angry if I don't answer the phone right away. The list can go on. I'm just really insulted that, as someone who has never once considered unfaithfulness, has had him point a finger at me when he has 3 fingers pointing back at him. He has given me a million reasons not to trust him, and yet I do. And he has the audacity to question me. I'm insulted, and it's really made me think deeply about whether I even want this to continue. I am not a person of low moral character, and for him to act like I am and not trust me I don't know, it just really makes me angry. Story, AITA for telling my husband I would never want children with him. Me and my husband have been married for going on 2 years now. Recently we bought our first house together. We closed at the 1st of January. Since we've bought our home, my husband has begged for a dog. While I love dogs, I just never wanted one inside the house. Eventually, after months of begging, I gave in with the exception that I got to pick the breed. He wanted a bigger breed dog and I did not want a big dog in the house. We compromised and ended up getting a smaller breed of dog. When getting this dog, I specifically explained that he was expected to take care of at least 50% of the dog's needs. We would have taken care of the pup. Of course, he helped with buying the pup's crate, toys, puppy pads, etc., because that part of owning a pup is fun, right? We brought him home on a Friday, and he was crate trained within the first 3 days. My husband did not assist with this at all and in fact complained that he couldn't sleep in our bed, which the one time he did, he peed all over our sheets. The week after we brought him home was my husband's vacation. He gets off for a full 7 days paid. I thought during his vacation he would want to spend time with the dog he begged for over 5 months for. I was wrong. I woke up with the pup, I fed and watered the pup, played with the pup, put him down for naps, ensured he got exercise, and of course took him out to potty. I couldn't leave the dog alone with my husband BC. He won't watch him close enough to ensure that he won't use the bathroom in the house. He plays maybe 5 minutes with the dog when coming in and then fusses that all the pup does is bite. He's a puppy, of course he bites. Anyways, to make this story shorter, I do everything for this dog, everything. Fast forward to the problem at hand. One evening my husband and I are talking and somehow the topic of kids get brought up. Before I thought I told him that getting a puppy with him made me realize I would never want to have children with him. For very obvious reasons, because he knew exactly what I was talking about. He blew up, accused me of calling him a piece of shit and many of other things, which I never said. I simply explained that I wouldn't want kids because I know I would be doing all the raising and taking care of them. Story, AITA for blocking, ignoring, and uninviting my father. I am 17-year-old about to start college in a month and have a family dilemma. I'm looking for a good personal resolution regarding my relationship with my father and have had multiple opinions given to me on the matter. My father was never a notable figure in my life as he and my mom amicably split before I was born. He lives in a completely different state and has to my knowledge at least 7 other children, each having 7 different mothers. Yes, he's paid child support throughout the years, but reluctantly, so I'll elaborate on this later. I can count the amount of times I've seen him in person on one hand and can tell you nothing notable about his character as we've never formed a strong connection through text or phone calls. Now, about a month ago, I graduated high school and my father kept pestering me and my mom about when it was, where he could stay for a few days, etc. I was shocked by his asking this, and my mom seemed unentertained by his proposition, but she had kind of always expected that he'd be there on my special day, though I never imagined this as I only wanted my true immediate family and friends to attend and had only been given a meager 4 graduation tickets anyway. Now I had the awkward task of explaining to my mom that I didn't want him to attend, which resulted in her wanting a clear reasoning as to why and my unfiltered feelings about his attendance. Here's a bit of what I told her, but all the instances of discomfort are too long to share here. I told her I felt uncomfortable with having a grown man I barely know attending my ceremony and celebration dinner. It'd be unfair to my best friend, brother, different fathers, sister-in-law, and especially me to have to deal with his sudden looming presence on my special day when none of us even know the man like that. I also told her that I'd found out from a family friend that one of the few instances he'd visited me was in fact not just planned so he could see my dance recital, but was also planned so that he could discuss possibly lowering or ending child support payments to my mother. Beside this, I've had to put up with awkward social media interactions from him, such as him sending me a video of his son's soccer game. I've had plenty of lacrosse games, not that he's shown up to any throughout my 4 years of high school. He tends to call me princess in messages, which is weird cause, once again, I barely know this man and I am about to be an entire college student next month. And here's the cherry on top of the strange bullshit I already put up with. His wife tagged me in a Father's Day post for him. I don't know her, or him like that, and I reserve my happy Father's Day for my single mom, not him. My mother was a little taken aback, but understood me completely, and eventually called my father to uninvited him from the graduation he was never really invited to anyway. I was too worked up to do it, and was afraid I'd cry on the phone, and I really didn't want to give him a moment to comfort me about the whole situation. Anyway, ever since I blocked him and his wife on Instagram as I need a break from him and his comments on my posts and generally just seeing him in my feed. I've muted him and haven't responded to his texts in over a month. My mom says I shouldn't be petty and that I should respond, but I'm just so resentful. I mean, if he really wanted to, couldn't he hop on a plane and work it out in person? He works at an airplane and has managed free flights in the past. Should I give him a chance? I don't know, and there are so many more unspoken details, but it hurts to think of it all. Story, AITA My girlfriend threw a water bottle at me at a party, so I yelled at her. I am 18 years old and 18 years old my girlfriend of 4 months were at a party a couple of days ago with our friends. Everyone was having a good time and getting plenty of drinks in, my girlfriend included. I had a couple of drinks but nothing too crazy as I don't really like alcohol due to my mother's alcoholism. When I was a kid she always drank peach or raspberry flavored vodka, would usually hit my siblings and I while drunk. To this day I cannot drink peach-flavored drinks alcoholic or not without immediately thinking of how terrified I was as a kid just from her breath. Anyways, I noticed my girlfriend was quite drunk pretty early on in the night, so I tried to encourage her to drink more water and wait longer between each drink, so that she wouldn't get sick or blackout because she's on medication which could have adverse effects, so that she wouldn't be hungover the next morning. She constantly ignored my offers of water, instead choosing to continue the drink she had. We sat down on a couch with her between me and one of our male friends to play some drinking game. She had handed me her drink to put on shelf, and when she asked for it back I refused, stating that I wouldn't let her have it until she finished the water I had given her barely drank out of at that point. She gave me the puppy dog eyes, and seeing as that didn't work she got mad at me and stopped leaning on me and starting leaning on our friend next to her. I asked her, what was that for, and she replied, he's not being mean to me, so I got a little frustrated and grabbed her drink to put into the other room until she had finished the water. As I was walking away I saw her groaning in disapproval, like a toddler when their toy gets taken away, and she picked up the water bottle. I stopped and turned, but before I could say anything she threw the water bottle at me, hitting me in the chest. I was in total disbelief. Everyone saw this happen, although they didn't see it hit me as a wall blocked their view. One of my friends said, "Awesome domestic abuse," in a non-serious tone, and no one seemed to care. Disbelief quickly turned into anger, and I was especially upset because I immediately thought of my mother and how she would have done the same thing to me. Still, not wanting to make a scene, I picked up the bottle, put her drink in the other room, and returned to sitting next to her, forcefully putting the bottle on the ground. I ignored her for the entire game to get my anger across to her, and once the game was finished she asked me if I wanted to talk. I said yes, but in a more private area, and we got up and moved, but in the same room as the basement we were in was all kinda one room, so we really weren't that far from anyone. As soon as we stopped walking I immediately started talking angrily, but in a hushed voice, "I would never throw a bottle at you like that. What if you hit me in the face or eye? You could have hurt me, all this over a stupid drink. Just because you're drunk does not give you immunity over your actions," all this while she looked down and kept chanting, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry." I couldn't see her eyes, but I noticed teardrops hitting the floor and I felt bad for berating her. I grabbed her in a hug and said it's okay while stroking her hair. I told her sometimes we're gonna do dumb shit and get mad at each other, but it's okay as long as we learn and grow from it. She kept crying and said through sobs that she didn't want me to leave her and that she doesn't deserve me. I chalked it up to her being drunk, but she has said things like that in the past. Some of our friends walked by with puzzled looks on their faces, so I just mouthed "it's fine" and waved them away. We sat down on the stairs to the first floor and she continued to sob. Again, more people walking by asking if she was okay. She responded that she was just scared for us to go to university and that she didn't want me to be so far. For context, we're going to school in different cities, but neither of us are taking a car and we won't be able to see each other that often. After a while she stopped crying and there were no issues for the rest of the night. Even in the preceding days we haven't said anything about it and moved on, I guess. Story: AITA for telling my fiancé that his friend makes me uncomfortable and I don't want him at our wedding. I, 27-year-old F, and my 24-year-old M fiancé are getting married this October. I'm extremely excited for our upcoming day, although it can be stressful at times preparing. It's also complicated by the fact that both my fiancé and I travel for work, so are gone for months at a time. Luckily we get to travel together. Anyways, to the point of the story. For our last contract, we were working for 9 months near my fiancé's hometown, 13 hours away from where our home base is. We were closer to his friends whom I had met multiple times previously when we visited and had no real problems with them. Although one of my fiancé's friends, 37-year-old, and we will call him Bruce, has always been somewhat of an a-hole, but nothing I could not handle until recently. He has become far more disrespectful towards me. We are now back closer to home for our new contract, and Bruce has decided that for no good reason. He has no family, friends in the area besides us, and he is retired, so he does not work. He is going to move to the city that we live in the same apartment complex that my fiancé lived in before we moved in together. For reasons I can only assume, because my fiancé is his only real friend that he hangs out with, so he wants to be closer to him. This is kinda weird, but I have never questioned him and have always treated him kindly. Recently, over the past few months, Bruce has been making rude, disrespectful comments about me starting tame and now getting to the point that I cannot tolerate it. For instance, one time we were just hanging at his apartment, and out of the blue and in front of everyone, he said I have big feet. Okay, not that big of a deal, just rude and uncalled for. But more recently, he came down to visit and get things sorted before he moved to our area. So we let him stay with us in our home. All is good, then my fiancé goes with him to help him sort out his apartment situation because I guess he just doesn't want to be alone. While they are waiting on the apartment manager, a young woman in her early to mid-20s, Bruce starts flirting with her, and as they are walking out he suggests to my fiancé that he should cheat on me with her because we are not married yet, so it doesn't matter. He also said to my fiancé on multiple occasions that I am not his type because I'm not super small and he doesn't like women like me out of nowhere. He is constantly downgrading me and talking down about me. I don't understand why he would be like this, and I honestly don't want him anywhere near me. He is supposed to be one of the groomsmen at our wedding, and now I don't feel comfortable with him being at my wedding at all if he thinks he can talk about me this way. I love my fiancé and I don't want to hurt him because I know he cares about his friend, but I just feel sick at the thought of being around this person, especially on a day I'm supposed to be around people that care about me. I almost feel like I'm overreacting, but I'm over it. Whenever you tell this person that you don't appreciate how he's treating you, he says he is just telling the truth. He doesn't care how it might affect you. AITA for not wanting him at our wedding? What should I do? My fiancé confronted him about the way he was treating me, and Bruce just doubled down and told my fiancé that I was a problem and I am going to ruin his life. I feel so confused and hurt, and I don't need this in my life. I just had to rant, sorry if it is long-winded. Story: AITA for breaking up after 6 years and getting into a relationship a year and a half later. A guy my ex hated. I am 21 years old, got into a relationship with 22 years old my ex when we were 13 and 14. It was good for 6 months before he started acting insecure and possessive. He was jealous of my childhood male best friend and constantly accused me of wanting to leave him for someone better looking. He never made time for me, and his friends pretended to be him to flirt with me, which he dismissed after I told him about this. Despite all this, I stayed with him for a year and a half because I was deeply in love. During that time, I became depressed, isolated, and always waiting for his acknowledgement. A major incident occurred when he called me a slut in front of everyone at our school. I stopped talking to him, but after 2.5 months, I forgave him because he begged it wasn't said about me. He improved, but often brought up my lack of trust in that situation and should have forgiven him sooner. Eventually, 22 years old my childhood ex-best friend got involved in our relationship, so much so that my ex trusted her more than me. This made me uncomfortable, especially since he always criticized me for talking to male friends. The relationship became so toxic that I ended up on antidepressants. In university, I made a small group of friends. My ex started feeling threatened by one male friend. My ex-best friend always found a reason to bring that guy up in front on my ex, and he demanded I stop talking to him. Despite my small social circle, my ex became increasingly controlling, even being intimate without my consent. Eventually, he broke up with me after 6 years because of my friendship with this male friend, and my ex-best friend sided with him. After a year, my university friend and I grew closer and were attracted to each other, and we started dating 5 months ago. This relationship has been the most peaceful I've experienced, but I sometimes feel guilty and wonder if my ex's accusations were true. I've kept this new relationship secret from those close to me because it feels too soon for them to know. Story: the woman, F30, I've been dating is displaying confusing signals and I'm, M25, not sure how to handle it. What should I do? So this situation has been going on for the better part of 2 weeks. 25 years myself and 30 years older had previously been dating for the past 5 months or so. To preface, both of us have incredibly enjoyed every moment we've been dating as far as I know. We clicked instantly, our first date was amazing, we've never so much as had a disagreement and everything has felt incredibly easy. I fell for her, and by her own words, she's found herself falling for me. So here's where the problem begins. About 2 weeks ago, she texted me late at night feeling like she needed to talk to me about things. She prefaced this by telling me how amazing I am in depth and that she adores me, which is apparently why she hadn't brought this up before. Essentially, she said she felt as if she wasn't ready for a relationship when we met, but attempted to feel differently about a long-term relationship because what we had together was so unexpected. She felt as if she had an intense pull to run away and be on her own in life. This ended with her saying that it felt nicer to end things and let me move on because I deserve better. In response to this, I told her that if her main concern was that I deserved better, I'd rather stick things out and see how things went. I can't see how many people, if any, would be better to be in a relationship with. If she felt as if she couldn't commit, then she couldn't help that and there's no hard feelings. At this point, I was still coming to terms with how I felt for her, trying to figure out if I'd fallen completely or not. The next morning, we decided that we'd continue to date, see how things felt. Hardly a week later, she texts me again to say that she felt horrible, and that how she felt hadn't changed. I assume this was compounded by some stress in business in her personal life. By this point, I'd come to terms with the fact that I'd fallen for her, and I told her as much, adding that it didn't sit right with me that all of this had been done over text, even though we'd seen each other twice in the gap between these two events. Feeling vulnerable, I asked her not to throw what was an amazing connection away, to which she simply replied that she was confident in her decision, she needed some time for herself, and that it was what was right for her even if she ends up regretting it. At this point, I was going away to do some work which would leave me completely off my phone for 2 days, and spending some time away from home directly after that. So after I talked through stuff with her a little, I told her I'd give her some time and then send a message even just for closure, fully intending at this point to try and cut her off and move on. My mind changed over the next 4 or 5 days and I ended up sending a very lengthy text essentially reassuring that I understand that some relationships feel like they add baggage or stress, and if she needed the space to sort through that, I get it, but that I didn't want to be pushed away, and that, as I maintain now, my feelings won't soon change, but I'd be happy to stay a platonic friend. I suppose in the back of my mind I hope that if and when she felt ready for a relationship, I'd be waiting to pick up where we left off, but that would feel crass and unfair to say, and add more pressure to what seems like an already difficult situation. I genuinely felt, and feel, as if this person might be my soulmate, and I'd hate myself if I let the possibility of exploring our relationship further slip away by doing what she suggested and moving on. I told her to really take her time to consider what I said. She took a few days to reply, assuring me that she was trying to come up with a response that made sense. Then a couple more. Apparently, writing and rewriting drafts, not knowing what to send. Eventually, today, she put it into words. She'd like to remain friends, but that she couldn't give me the pretense that it might lead to more again. She said she doesn't want our relationship to leave me thinking that I couldn't have that connection with someone else, and that thought of me being happy with someone else who's right for me makes her happy, and that she doesn't want to hold me back from it. For various reasons, both of us are very picky about our type, and she and I are both fully aware that I would find it ridiculously difficult to find someone with a similar connection. I did say that I might step back into the dating pool, but that in all likelihood, we would both be single while we are friends. This, minutes later, is when she began making offhand jokes about us dating again, joking that I might complain so much about dating that the only solution to stop it would be to date me again, which I dismissed as a deflection of the serious topic. Then, not 30 minutes of idle friendly chat later, she mentioned that time changes things, and when I added to that, saying that without trying to sound deluded, neither of us know how we'll feel in however long, at worst I'll have a good friend who knows me intimately, she first sent that is pretty deluded, then I could be an awful friend. Now, I'm a bit of a chronic overthinker, but that really hit me as an attempt at a joke to confirm that she might want to reconcile in the future. I suppose what I'm thinking is, there has been so much non-committal language used since the start of this. A complete refusal to imply that we'd get together, and gentle nudges for me to find someone else, but also a seeming desire for me to stay around despite the fact she was falling for me before deciding to go it alone. I've 25 years old been dating a woman 30 years old for 5 months, and although we clicked instantly and had an amazing connection, she recently decided to end things, citing a need to be on her own despite still having feelings for me. While she wants to remain friends and doesn't want to give me false hope, her mixed signals and jokes about possibly dating again have left me so confused. I feel as if I should also add that every conversation we've had since the start of dating, we've been very candid, honest, and mature with each other. There have been no games, no mincing words, and a lot of trust. Which is why some of these things seem so odd. The not-so conclusion that me and 2 friends came to as they were supporting me, and I really hated even agreeing with this because it feels so horribly patronizing to even think, is that she is simply incredibly conflicted, stressed, and possibly avoidant, and one friend agreed that it would do us both good for me to stick around and support her as a friend without putting pressure on her, while I was encouraged to run for the hills by the other. But I'm ultimately lost, so I'll open it up to the masses. Story: AITA for keeping my son away from my in-laws. I am 22 years old female and my ex 25 years old male had our son in early October of 2023. For privacy purposes we are going to call my ex, Justin. Justin and I always had a great relationship with each other. In the beginning everything was great, we were a perfect couple. Our families loved us and often invited us to family gatherings. His parents, let's call them Jessica and Michael, and stepdad, let's call him Kevin, never got along with each other. A little backstory: Justin's parents separated when he was 16 due to an affair that Jessica had with Kevin while still married to Michael. Michael and Kevin were best friends, so I understand why Michael can't be around both of them. As a side note, that Michael and Jessica had Justin when they were in their early 20s. Justin lived with mother, so I often hang out at his mother's apartment. Jessica and I got along really well until the day I found out I was pregnant. When Justin found out, he was shocked, and so was I. We both talked about it, and it was a tough decision whether to keep our baby or not. Obviously, we decided to keep our baby and start a family of our own. We announced the pregnancy when I was 2 months pregnant. My family was very supportive, however, when it came Justin's side of the family, it didn't go so well. Jessica and Kevin were not as supportive as they talked to Justin privately then talked to me. They suggested for me to rethink my choices and get the abortion. Justin and I explained that we already had a talk about it for a while, then we decided that we want to start a family of our own. Jessica didn't take this very well and told me I will become a single mom if I don't rethink my choices about keeping the baby. I was hurt when she said this to me, so I sternly said, "I'm sorry, but we are keeping our baby." She stood silent, and the rest of the time being there with her was awkward. A week later she decided to kick Justin out and demanded that Justin lives with me since we want to keep our baby. I would, but I live in my family's home, so I can't take him in immediately out of respect for my family. I explained to her exactly that and was very upset, saying that Justin had a week to pack his things and leave her home. Long story short, Justin ended up living with his dad until the birth of our son. 2 weeks before my due date, we held a baby shower. Michael throughout the pregnancy was helpful with Justin and helped organize the baby shower. Jessica and Kevin, of course, was not invited out of respect for Michael. Jessica blamed Justin and I for not inviting them, even though I have suggested to have 2 baby showers so she isn't left out. She said that we are the reason the family is not together. Jessica soon stopped keeping contact with Justin and only talked to him when she is updating him on his credit card payments he needs to pay since she is using it. The day on our son's birth, everyone got to meet him, including Jessica and Kevin. I asked everyone to not post my son on social media, but pictures are allowed. Jessica knew this and posted him on her Instagram anyways. I was extremely upset and asked Justin to talk to her about it and respect my boundaries. Justin moved in with me and my family. His dad and my family has done a lot for us, as it takes a village to raise a baby. My family got Justin a well-paying job, and my dad even lent him money to be certified for that well-paying job. However, Jessica still continues to disrespect my boundaries. I had some rules that baby was not allowed to go to public places until he was 6 months old, since he would be vaccinated already and getting sick wasn't a risk for him. My son was born in a cold weather month and near holidays. So I understand how going out to family gatherings with a newborn can be difficult, but I made it clear that visitation is allowed, but only family members, just that our baby cannot go out yet since he at the time wasn't vaccinated yet. The only time he will be out is when he has a doctor's visit. From there, Justin and I constantly argue about his mother, since he was always defending her, and about how he is not helping me with the baby. I developed severe postpartum depression, so I often was in a bad mood. One day Jessica was going off about me gatekeeping her grandson and doesn't want to visit our home since she is running her thrift store business and is too busy to come by. I went completely off on Jessica. I was so fed up with her disrespectful behavior around me and constantly disrespects my boundaries for my son. That same day Justin came home with both Mark and Jessica, grabbed his things, left me and our son. I became a single mom raising my son alone. Justin hardly asked about our son. At one point he took me to court for a retraining order to try to take away our son from me with no visitation rights, saying I was unstable to be a parent even though my postpartum depression was treated and I've gone to therapy. The order was denied since there was no proof of me being a threat. His parents support him leaving our son. So I filed for child support, joint legal custody and sole physical custody to me, with Justin having visitation rights. I am not one to keep my child away from his father regardless on what happened between us. My family and I respects Justin as my son's father and still welcome him to see our son, but he doesn't make the effort to. Michael, Jessica and Kevin are all of a sudden friends during this whole process. I decided to also file that those three are not allowed to see or contact my son until he is the age 18. His family members think it is not fair, but my family are with me with it. Bye and see you again in the next videos and stories.